Hi there, survivors. A new week brings a new episode of The Garage. Today, you'll learn what happened to night riders on their way to the wastes, which killer souvenirs they've got this time, the touching story of the Mitchell family, and much more. Let's go. Yes, the Connecti are back to the wastes today. Night Riders are back, and once again they bring us a lot of interesting things. Earning parts and respect of the Connecti will not be easy. You have to prove your valor and courage. Prove that you're worthy of contacting them and doing business with them. To do this, you need to complete faction tasks, a real test of any survivor's skill. Martin does not like to talk about his adventures, but the Connecti sometimes tell their stories to survivors. For example, there's this one. This time, the inviting Flanders seemed as close as ever. The Connecti heard rumors of a mountain pass leading to a scheduled valley among the rocks. Getting there was not easy, because the pass was overlooked by an ancient castle, and the approaches were patrolled by the Baron Squad. The nearby lands were full of stories that Crossout had not affected the inhabitants of the valley, that the water there was clean and tasty, and the land fertile. It was said that the people there lived in tranquility and peace under the protection of the Baron and his soldiers. But getting there was not easy. The imposing lord of the castle carefully selected his subjects, and the price for access to his possessions was high. But since no one came back from the pass, maybe the life there was as beautiful as everyone heard. After some time, the Connecti found themselves at the gates of this castle, and Martin held a speech before the Baron. The two leaders saw each other as equals, and the Connecti army was asked to join the Baron in the castle. The hospitable owner offered to discuss the issue of passage into his domain, and a real feast was declared in honor of the knights. Alcohol flowed like a river. The fun was gaining momentum. But at some point, the Baron's people tried to attack Martin and his bodyguards. The leader of the Connecti expected this and forbade his people to drink, but ordered them to have their weapons at hand. At the same moment, he gave a signal to the Connecti left behind the gate of the castle, and a volley from the Night Riders hit the walls. The battle with the Baron was bloody, but fast, and in the morning, Martin learned the terrible truth. The castle was not hosting knights. The people there were cannibals. With their tales of the valley and their imposing appearance, they lured the survivors here, then robbed and killed them. No mountain valley with springs and green trees existed, only a rocky abyss with sheer walls, where the Baron dropped the bones of his victims. The Connecti took the weapons of the false knights, and Martin ordered to raise the cannibal nest, so that there would not even be any memory left of this cursed place. Another rumor about Flanders turned out to be a lie, and the Connecti moved on, immediately deciding to sell some of the trophies. They will find their retreat one day. What have the Connecti prepared for the worthy this time? SMG-37 Hornet. This is the case when size doesn't matter. What matters is the crazy firepower. This small submachine gun can launch an entire cloud of bullets at the enemy in a very short time. Size, weight, and ease of use will certainly make it a favorite of many survivors. A rare thing. Single-shot shotgun Fafnir. Such shotguns are well known in the wasteland, particularly because of the modification called junk bow. Naturally, the Connecti would not offer conventional weapons for their challenges. This shotgun is a very rare version of junk bow, with an active stabilization system. The spread depends on your speed, which turns a classic weapon into a unique augment in combat. Prometheus 5 is another very rare variation of a popular energy weapon. However, a special modification has come into the hands of the Connecti, which not only launches deadly charges at the enemy, but also accumulates damage with each subsequent shot, using specific capacitors and a pin-out scheme. But everything described above fades before the legendary weapon, which awaits the best and the most skillful survivors. Machine gun aspect may seem like a simple and reliable machine of destruction, which can be found in hundreds. But like any true fighter, it hides its true essence until the last moment. True rage is dreaming inside this machine gun. Superstitious survivors say that there's a berserk spirit inside. The more this weapon shoots at the enemy, the stronger the heat from the flame of hatred. But unlike conventional machine guns, the higher the temperature of the barrel, the more damage the enemy receives. The autocannon Tornado is also shrouded in superstitious whispers and mystery. If a berserker is enclosed in a machine gun, then the spirit of a real gunner is surely hidden in this autocannon. The longer the owner of the weapon fires at the enemy, the more accurate the shots become, and the more damage the enemy receives. Among the weaponry that the Knights brought last time, we have a unique Spike 1 crossbow back again. When shot, it launches a piece of carcass without plumage, which has a very large impulse. It deals damage below average, has low firing rate, average range, and very exact accuracy. Works as good as gunpowder and explosives. Expect the visit of Martin and his connectee on April 19. Watch the news, and good luck in the Wasteland survivors. Let us know in the comments what you think of the Knight Rider's new advent. Please note that all features described in the developer blog are not final and may be changed before they're introduced into the game, or they may not make it into the final version at all. The Iron Shield is already available in the shop. What's inside? Unique armored car, Mark EX. 2 frontal machine guns ST M23 Defender, and an epic turret cannon ZS-34 Fat Man. Unique Goliath track of epic rarity. Unique hero portrait, Lieutenant Mitchell. A unique paint can, Solomon's Pattern. Unique sticker, Dogs of War, as well as an increased maximum number of parts used to 55 and 3,400 in-game coins. Mark EX is a repaired and modified model of the first tank used in combat operations. True, this machine was never on a battlefield. It got stuck in a swamp and never reached the intended position. But that's why the tank survived, and later became a proud museum exhibit, which was taken care of by more than one generation of wardens. The last of them, Mitchell, was very pedantic in his work with the machine and kept it working right up to the very catastrophe. In these tragic days for mankind, the painstaking work of the warden paid off handsomely when Mitchell hid his family in the cockpit of the tank and rode it out of the chaotic agony of the city. For some time, the family wandered through the wild wasteland and eventually settled in the valley. Old man Mitchell made several trips to the cities on his faithful Mark EX and died right behind its levers after a successful rescue expedition. Impressed with his grandfather's example, young Mitchell put on an old helmet, hiding his face, and continued his work. Lieutenant Mitchell has been taking civilians out of combat zones for several decades. He never attacks first, but quickly suppresses any attempt to stop him. If your attention is drawn to the unique tracks, it's no accident. People have invented similar tracks during their first global war with each other. Now they're used in the current, less global war. Thanks to a special blade, Goliaths provide decent maneuverability. Don't forget that when mounted, the tracks limit the car's maximum speed. Each mounted track also reduces the cabin's power. Otherwise, Mark EX is a decent tank. Special abilities of a certain detail forms a promising potential. Tank lovers will find it easy to enjoy. Well, that's it for today, survivors. Keep fighting and training, designing and trading. See you in a week, right here in the garage. Tell your friends about the show if you like it, and leave your comments. We're always ready to hear you out. So long.